All right. So, as I like to say, whenever things say we're live, the internet is telling me that we're live. So, hopefully, that is actually working the way that it is supposed to be working. So, hello. Welcome to everyone who is watching the Written in Melanin channel or this Twitch stream. Hello. Welcome to everyone who's watching. Wherever this may have found you, I'm so glad that you are here. And I hope that your day is going lovely for you and a lot less stressful than it has been for us. But we are here, and we are going to be productive. Yes? Yes. So, that being said, hello, Amanda. How art thou?
Hello, Chelsea. I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you.
Is this the energy we're bringing forth this week?
I don't
this Monday.
Probably. My energy has been so chaotic, like today, this week, and I'm totally fine with it because it's like productive chaotic energy, and I'm not sure what to do with it, but I'm just like, okay, this is what it is. So, just been like trucking along, you know. I don't know why I did this, but it is what it is.
That's again part of the chaos.
Yes, embrace the chaos. That being said, how are you? What have you done since Thursday? So on and so forth.
I'm okay. I feel like having a bit of allergy happening. California weather has been wild. We are in the second week of January, and it's already mid-60s right now.
Oh, okay.
Wednesday's going to be like 70. It's going to go back down to the 50s. I don't know what's happening.
I mean, honestly, I don't know what's happening on the East Coast either because it's been like hot snow, cold. Nice day.
Right.
So it's just been like, all right, that's cool.
All over the place. Right. But aside from that, I things are good. I did a tally on how many words I have on this book. And even before finishing the book and before rewrites and all of that, I have over 76,000 words, which is more than what I had for my last book, like the final word count for my last book. This book is going to be longer. It's exciting, and I'm excited to be close to finishing it. Not to shade my project, but I kind of just want to
be done with it.
Be able to look at it with fresh eyes. How about you?
I am at a point where it's just like, okay, chaos. My mind does not think linearly. So to try to put my thoughts in any coherent way, I'm at a point in the story where it's just like, kind of like you, I'm like, I can see the end in sight, which for me is kind of wild. But it's kind of exciting because my last book was a novella, so it was like 25,000 words. And this one, currently kind of like you, it's sitting at 76,000 plus words. And I'm like, I'm not done. And so it's just like, that's kind of wild to me because I didn't think it was possible. And if you guys are listening to the podcast, I actually recorded an episode about that today, talking about, just getting myself to focus. But it's kind of interesting. So I have 4 chapters left. I'm not going past 20 chapters. And it is on the longer side, but when you said it, I was thinking, oh, well, it makes sense that yours is longer because you usually write series and this is a standalone. So it probably is going to be a little bit longer when you know that there's not going to be another book following it up to tie it up in a bow. But for me, I'm just kind of like, I know that this is at minimum going to be a duology. So I'm just kind of like, I don't want it to be too long, but at the same time, I don't want it to be like I'm cutting it short abruptly, if that makes sense. So, also, hello to Blinkerbell. Can't stick around, but leaving a lurk up. Appreciate it. And also, RC Scott is here. Hello on my lunch break at work, but always writing in spirit. Understood, honestly. I wrote a lot this weekend. I wrote 6,000 words.
You have been killing it. I've seen it, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna give you your flowers right now.
Thank you. I was just like amazed. I'm like questioning myself, like, did I smoke crack today? I don't think I did. That's not something that I do. But this is wild. This is way out of what I normally do. This is great.
Oh, I love you. This is fucking dumb.
That's just where my mind went. So, mugs. So I went to Barnes & Noble this weekend because I love my husband. He's great. He's wonderful. He really indulges me in my reading habits. He's an enabler in the best ways. And we went to Books A Million, right? Mm-hmm. Because our dog needed to go to the groomers because, like I said, going to Texas, dropping him off. So we wanted to get him a bath before we went. So while we were at Books A Million, I got this fun little mug.
I love it.
So yeah.
That's great. And it's true. Future best-selling author. This is Ouija, As Above, So Below. And it's very fitting with my shirt, which is all like horoscopes and astrology stuff. Awesome. So I thought
I like
tied in branding.
It's like branding. Please do not forget. So yeah, don't ask me what's in my cup. I'm an adult, and we're going to be writing today, so.
Well, I just got plain coffee because it's 10 my time. I will say I've not been writing as much as you, but that's going to change this week. I feel the writing spirit upon me to just, like, finish this book because
that was me accepting the spirit, by the way.
I don't want to finish this and then just go, okay, here you go. Like, I want to finish it, take a break from a whole day where I'm not thinking about it, come back to it, look at it, make some edits, and then send it your way. So my goal is to have it, like, finished by the end of this week so that, you know, I can maybe take the 15th and 16th off from it, come back on the 17th, and then spend some time reviewing it before I send it your way.
I 100% understand because I am in the same boat. I'm like, I want to really do my best to send you, like, a finished product and not just something that I was just like, oh, yeah, by the way, I just finished this, like, a day ago. Also, if you guys are watching this, and I am actually rearranging this because, side note, sorry, Amanda, chaos. This is who I am today. I'm rearranging the way the chat looks because it's frustrating the bejesus out of me. And I needed to do this. I apologize. So y'all are probably seeing this change in real time. But yeah. Sorry to cut you off, Amanda. I'm a terrible person. Forgive me.
No, you're good.
But yeah. But no, as I was saying, I completely understand what you're saying because I want to be able to finish and then also like look at it and see it and be okay with it before I send it to you so that I'm getting your actual feedback on what's good the product is going to be and not feedback on things that I know are going to need to be fixed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, that's fixed. I'm sorry. My mind is now back in this conversation fully. But we do have some comments from the chat. Portia is here. Hey, Portia, how you doing? We are actually going to be productive today, you guys. I do have a question for you guys to kind of weigh in on. So I'll ask that, and then we'll get into this and give anybody else who wants to write with us a little chance to get in here. But R.C. Scott said, I rebuilt a horror story I abandoned over a year ago. Something about coming to something old as a better writer. Yes.
I love that.
Like this idea that I'm writing now, We Are the Origin. I can say this because I don't know how many people actually watch our previous streams, especially since they're so long. But it started out way, way, way long ago as a story that I was just very hesitantly calling Grim and Reaper, and it wasn't a high fantasy. It was a dystopian, and the characters were like way different. but I set it down for a while, and then I did Keeping Promises and a couple other things, like started a business and the Melanin Library and the YouTube channel and other things in between. And then I came back to it, and it changed and morphed completely, but I was a better writer, and it feels like a much better story. Like, I can't vouch for it because, like, my husband says it's good, but, you know, he loves me, so I always take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, there's something about coming back to stories when you know that you're better, or having an idea and being like, you know what, I need to come back to this once my skills have evolved to match the idea. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I agree. That's similar to how it was with my series. I wrote it in college, and if I would have put out the original thing that I wrote, it wasn't good. I'm just gonna straight up say it wasn't good. And it's not that it wasn't well written. It's just I didn't have as much of an understanding of the craft as I do now. I at the time did not do an outline, which is weird for me because I'm a diehard plotter for real.
Yeah.
But you know, you live and learn, you grow, and then you're able to, some ideas you're able to bring forth and revamp. Some, you know, are just ideas that are meant to amuse you for a minute and maybe won't work. But, so I love that you're taking your old work and revamping it. Can't wait to read it. I love horror, so keep us in mind when you're putting your work out.
Yeah, yeah. And since you said that, this is the question I had, and I am 100% capping this discussion at 10 minutes. So at 1:25 Eastern Standard Time, we are going into our first sprint, whether the conversation's done or not, period. Okay. That being said, yes. I asked Amanda this question earlier today, and I'm going to pose it to you guys now. And basically, the scenario is, obviously, you guys know me. Y'all know I have this channel. I'm doing the podcast. I have the Melanin Library. I have various platforms to reach various people who like Black and bookish things, right? And I very often get questions in my DMs asking me to review a book. A lot of times, most of the time, I say no, especially since, to be concise, there's a way I like to be approached, and if you sneak into my DMs with a long description of your book, no introduction, I don't know you, you don't follow me, I don't follow you, I don't know you from Jim's cousin, and then you send me a link to your book, and you're like, hey, please review it, I'm just kind of like, no, I don't, why? Huh? Confusion, right? But this one author came into my DMs, he was very respectful, and he actually did research, so he approached me with a book that in a genre that I actually like to read, i.e. fantasy, because I cannot tell y'all how many times I get asked to read, like, poetry or memoirs or nonfiction. Don't know when y'all ever saw me talk about that. I very actively kind of try to tell y'all that I don't like it, but whatever. Anyway, point is, he asked me to read it, and I was like, sure, the synopsis sounds dope. Let me get into it. The thing y'all know about me is that I am very honest and straightforward. And if you have ever received feedback or criticism from me, I try to be very honest, and it is constructive. But I try to be honest, and I am not the person who's going to tell you that your book is awesome if it needs work. That's just who I am, right?
Right.
And so this author, his book is not bad. I would never say that. I wouldn't even say the plot is bad. It's just, it needs a lot of work, and it very much reads like, not feels like, but reads like a self-published work, meaning that I can tell that there is very little after draft editing involved, if that makes sense. And so he asked for a review on the platform, and so now I'm like, I have to tell him that I can't for various reasons, right? So now I'm like, how should I go about this? And since I'm an author, I want to be kind and considerate, but I'm also an editor, and as an author, someone who's writing, if I asked someone to do something for me and they weren't going to do it, I would want to know that they're not going to do it, but I would also want to know why. And that's me personally. Right. So my question is, like, how do I go about this without being rude or disrespectful? Because that's not how I mean it at all.
So the book is published, right?
Yes.
Or is it?
It's published. It's available on Amazon to read today. And it's not brand new either.
Okay. Because I was going to say if it was just a draft, I would say, I'll come back to me when this has been edited. But I would probably say something like, hey, thanks for considering me. I really appreciate it. Unfortunately, I didn't vibe with this story. And therefore, I don't want to put something out there about your book that would be less than, I don't know, that would just not be good to help your book marketing, because unfortunately the story did not vibe with me, and I think that you deserve to have people review your book. If you're asking somebody for a review, how disappointing and heartbroken would you be if they're like, oh sure, I'll read it, and then they give you a 1 star? Essentially kind of what you're saying, but in a not super blunt way. Is like, I didn't like your book, therefore I'm not going to put a review out, because the review would be that I did not like this book. And you're still getting started, and so it might be best if you try to find people who like your book to put a review out there. Not saying every review is going to be good. I got some bad reviews, but I think if you're actively seeking somebody's opinion and it's not going to be good, like, you might not want to use that footage, but like...
And see, that's kind of how I'm feeling about it. I'm just kind of like, first of all, me being me, I support Black authors. So even if I don't like the book that someone sends me, if they are Black, and this is a caveat, and me being honest, if they are Black, I'm not going to put out a negative review if I can help it. It's just going to be, okay, this wasn't for me. Like, I'm not going to promote it. I'm not going to tell the people I know to go read and buy it because of the quality or whatever is keeping me from saying it. But also, I don't want to be that person where it's just like, I'm not going to review your book because I'm not, And I want to be constructive, because it's just also, like I said, for me, if I reached out to someone in, like, one of my favored booktubers, book reviewers, book talkers, book grammars, whatever, insert suffix, whichever suffix you like, and they agreed to it, and then they weren't, like, there's really no way to avoid the kind of crushing blow that is. But right. Also, I don't want to just be like, leave it up in the air as to why, and be like, well, I want to be able to say, like, this is how you can make it better, or this is what put me off, to offer, like, growth or the option for growth. But I also, like I said, we're not friends. I don't really know this person, and I don't want to get a reputation for being that person on the internet where, like, oh, she said she was going to read my book, but she didn't, Like, it's not even like that. Yeah. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to work that one out.
I mean, I think it's hard because you want to be able to say that this could be great if it got some editing, but because it's already published, it's hard to tell an author who's already published and already spent the coin to put the stuff up on Amazon or wherever that you need to take it down, redo it, come back with a second edition.
Yeah, and I don't know if there was editing involved. Like I said, I don't know this person. I don't know their backstory. All I know is that it reads like there was no constructive criticism involved. It reads very much like, this is my first draft, and I went back and I cleaned up the line work, but the content, the flow, the pacing, the motivations of the characters, the basic setting, and the introduction of the world, all of it needs work. And I'm trying to also be, respectful and kind, because I want someone to be that to me. But also, having read good fantasy, slight plug for the Witchkind series, and also have read, like, light fantasy. So if you've never read, like, Kimberly Lemming's books, hers is like a romance fantasy, and having read books like Children of Blood and Bone and spent a lot of time in the fantasy world, it's just kind of like, I know for me as a writer writing fantasy, I'm trying very hard to make sure that it lives up to the expectations of the genre. And this book just very much feels like it does not. Not that it's not trying, it just does not. And I'm only about 10% of the way through the book, and I'm like, I can't. If that makes sense. So that's my struggle of the week.
Do we have any comments or anybody else weighing in on this topic?
Let's see. A couple other comments about what people are working on, so I'll come back to those in just a moment. But Read Love Listen is here, and she said, as a reviewer, I just won't make a video about the book, or I may mention the story was hood, but have a disclaimer on what may turn folks off on the book. Oh, good, not hood. Never mind. Make a video about the book, and I may mention that the story was good, but have a disclaimer that of what may turn folks off from the book. Like, hey, I read the book, and being honest, I can't rate it 3 stars or more. I couldn't get into the story for a number of reasons, and here's why. And I think that's the reason I'm going to have to go with. It's just like, it's not a bad story. The premise of it, I will say this. It's a good idea. The execution could use work. I'll put it like that. And there's really no polite way to say that to someone whose book has been out for more than a year. So it's just kind of like, I want to help. I want to support. But something that I always have to make clear to folks is that the Melanin library in and of itself, the website, is a resource. There are over 2,000 books on the Melanin library. I have not read each one. It is an open source. Anybody can submit a book, and any author can submit their own book. However, that doesn't mean that I've read it. So the books that I personally endorse, I make very clear that, like, I have read this book, and this is what I think about it. And I just don't want to endorse something that I can't really stand behind. And like you said, if I can't honestly rate it at least three stars or higher, I feel like that's not actually helping someone promote their book. Because a lot of people will see 2 or 3 stars and be like, oh, you didn't really care for the book. Unless it's 4 or 5 stars, people will be like, oh, okay. And that's why, if you notice on like my platforms and stuff, I try very hard not to give things a star rating. Because the things that I like may be things that other people hate, and vice versa. The things that just were like, for me, were like, no, absolutely cannot. Maybe something that somebody else is looking for, and I don't want to turn someone off from a review by giving it a star rating at the beginning, and then being like, oh, it was 2 stars, but then they miss all the things that they personally would have liked about the book. So,
right,
yeah, but Read Love Listen said, I haven't been in this position where it's been super bad, but there were a couple books I read last year that could have been 4 or 5 stars, but they needed some editor love. I'm a lenient reviewer, but I've learned, like you mentioned, these folks aren't my friend, and my time is valuable. I don't want to spend too much time getting out of the story due to typos. And that's the same. I'm nice to people, but as I will tell you wholeheartedly and with my whole chest, I don't really like people, and I'm not that nice in real life. So if I actually deal with you on like a regular basis, just understand that you are special, and that's just my nature. That's my default. I'm very introverted, so like, especially with the brand that I've been trying to build and I'm still building, I try to be lenient and understanding, but at the same time, I'm not going to jeopardize that for someone I don't know, if that makes sense. But rant over. Let's run through these comments where people are talking about what they're working on. If you've just got here or you haven't shared yet, let us know what you are working on, and we will get into this sprint. 3 minutes tops. I know what I said before, but just give me 3 minutes, and we're going to get into this for real. Portia said she's working on her Medusa story. I wasn't ready to write when I got the idea for the story. And the original story idea was an erotic fantasy with a mix of different gods from various African mythologies, and there is nothing erotic about the story that I'm actually writing now. So things change. R.C. Scott, I'm putting out my first story in a few months. Congratulations. Never done this before, so I'm learning everything and trying to be less antisocial. That is a real thing. Good luck. I'm still figuring it out. Really, I only talked to like Amanda and Audra, so like, good luck. And yeah, I know for me, for this sprint, my word count for today, my total goal is 3,123 words. So that's what I'm going to be working on trying to hit. I'm on chapter 16, so going to be going at that. And I've already done my read through edit for the day, so I'm actually just going to jump into writing. Amanda.
Yeah, finishing up a section, kind of still finishing up that low point section for my character, where my main character Zora, where everything's shit, and then I will then eventually, hopefully during the sprint, transition into the calm before the storm being the parts that happen before the big, huge showdown, magical showdown with everybody.
I can't wait for the magical
Which I'm
showdown.
excited to get to, but it's kind of like I'm laying groundwork, so I can't exactly jump into the magical fight because I have to lay that groundwork first before I get into the big, huge thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah. No word count, just vibes for me.
Understood. I'm going to finish this book and get it to you on time. I swear. If I don't, just know that I am so apologetic from the bottom of my heart, and I'm ashamed of myself. But
we're not doing that because you're gonna finish it. We're gonna finish this. I have blue champagne in my fridge because I'm excited that I'm gonna finish this book this week. So we're doing this.
All right, let's do it. All right, that being said, R.C. Scott, I'm working on a horror story about a cannibal. After that, I'll be writing my first graphic novel. That sounds amazing.
Oh, love it.
And Read, Love, Listen, I'm working on a fairy story that is loosely based off Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So, that's also amazing. And I didn't get to mention her earlier, but Shiny Mouse is here on Twitch. So, hello, how you doing? Welcome. And, okay, I did my rant. Sorry for going over, you guys, but we got this, and we're going to get into this first sprint. As I mentioned before, Chill Hop got a copyright claim for that, so no more music on the stream. But you can listen to whatever you want to on your own time. So, that being said, let's get into this first sprint. So, happy writing, everyone. All right, that is it for that first sprint. So if you're here, let us know how you did, what you got done, so on and so forth. Um, Personally, hold on. I got 561 words that time. Um, give or take a couple because I know that there are some that I'm definitely going to get rid of. But so roughly like 500 words.
551 for me. I did delete a little bit because I started going down a path and went, this ain't where I want to go. So then I turned around and I fixed it.
So that's the good part. That's the good part about it. It's just like you can always go back and fix it.
Mm-hmm.
So awesome. I'm at a point. I had to. If you guys saw me leave, it's because I had to go get a stool. Cause like I have all this desk space, but like over here I've got like snacks and drinks and stuff, and then over here I've got like my planner and other stuff that I don't really want to move out the way. So I had to go get a stool for my notebook so that I could go back and flip through some of the things that I needed to know because I had planned out some of the things that I knew needed to happen in this chapter. But what I'm realizing more towards the end of the story is that it's kind of taking on a life of its own. And it's not like veering off from the outline or anything. It's just like, oh, so this is how we're solving this problem. Like solutions are presenting themselves that I didn't think about, which is nice. But also like new elements that I hadn't considered before, if that makes sense. So, I think I had talked about like either last sprint or the other one or whatever that I had two side characters. Well, they're not very side anymore. They're more involved in the story than I had expected them to be. And then as I was starting to like work out the beginning part of the outline for the second book, I was like, oh, this character is going to be way more important than I thought he was going to be. Like, definitely can't kill him off. So that was that was interesting. But when you read it, Amanda, I hope you appreciate it. I hope you like it. But we will see. It was just very surprising. I'll say that.
Again, I'm excited. The 20th can't come soon enough for multiple reasons. For me to be done, to read your stuff, all of that.
It's going to be good stuff. It's going to be good stuff. And also, if you guys saw the numbers pop up on the screen, I'm just like rearranging my screen on my end so that I can see things. This is just, except that I'm just doing stuff on my end, you guys. If you see crazy stuff happening, I'm sorry.
You're chaotic neutral today?
Yes. I'm just trying to keep things in a certain perspective because I don't know if you guys are on AuthorTube or not, but I follow Barrett Laurie and he posted a video. And basically, I'm not going to get into the AuthorTube tea that he talked about. If you want to see it, go watch his video. But he was.
I'm gonna go subscribe now.
He's really dope. He also runs a critique group live. If you guys are interested, where the authors of AuthorTube get together to pitch their stories and such. So, and get feedback, constructive feedback. And he also organizes or orchestrates a lot of people finding critique partners and beta readers. So, really like wholesome community on his channel. So, would definitely go check it out. Again, his name is Barrett. He's usually in the chat. I don't think he's here today, but BarretLaurie, Barrett Laurie. But on the video that he made, he was talking about, how he runs critique group or whatever. And it takes a lot of work to run a live stream. And when I was watching his videos, one of my comments was like, I 100% understand how much work and effort and time and money goes into running a live stream, especially one where you're orchestrating other people on the channel and organizing it. So just a slight tangent, because chaos, right? Running the stream, like, and making it look decent and having other people on is not an easy task. Especially if you're, like, StreamYard is really popular, but if you're not using StreamYard, I don't use StreamYard. It's way, it's a different beast, I will say. Getting it to look right, making sure that everybody's technology is up to date, making sure that you're engaging with people an appropriate amount of time, making sure it's not too long but not too short either, and getting enough consistency so that people know, like, hey, we do this on this day at this time, and getting other people that you interact with to be consistent, and then finding a way to communicate with them. Because here's the thing, YouTube doesn't allow for 2 different channels to collaborate. I don't know why they don't have that. I don't know why there is not a way for a joint video or live stream to appear on multiple channels, but YouTube does not make it easy for you to collaborate. Let me just put it like that. So, that being said, if y'all see me moving stuff around, it's just because I'm trying to manage the stream and also write on the computer at the same time, and usually I only do one or the other. So, yeah. And also, in his video, he talked about how it's not free. So, I don't know about you guys, but I know a lot of streamers actually pay for the services that they use to stream. I know that I pay I pay for a lot of things. I know for a fact that I pay for Streamlabs, though, which is like $20 a month, in order for me to have it look like this and look nice and not run out of time, and for the chat to work and all the other little widgets that y'all see up here. Yeah. Anyway, that was my rant for the day. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I appreciate it.
Not TED Talk.
So, and Reed Love Listen said she appreciates the effort and work, and thank you for appreciating it. Speaking of live streams, make sure you guys are subscribed to Amanda, because she does Lit Bitches twice a month, right? Bi-weekly.
Yes.
So.
Bi-monthly, yeah, twice a month.
Bi-monthly.
Bi-weekly. Well, yeah, something like that. Yes, I think I have it wrong.
I've never liked the term bi-weekly, because that can mean twice a week or twice a month. I've never liked that term. Depends on how you use it.
We do it twice a month at the moment. We just did our first episode of the year Saturday. And it was great. We talked about our goals. We talked about what we're working on. And we talked about that author drama that you and I discussed, about the tweet and the representation and all that.
I've got another question for you guys, actually, if we have the time. So,
yeah.
Do we have time?
Lay it on me.
We can stay focused. But there was a tweet, and I don't have the actual screenshots of it this time to like directly quote or even share who it was, but it's just kind of been a conversation happening on Twitter. How do you guys feel about publishing taking a lean towards if there's no romance in a YA novel, it's considered a middle grade? How do you feel about that? Like, if there's no aspect of romance, then apparently editors and publishers are pushing books to be marketed as middle grade books instead of young adult books. Or if there's too much, they're leaning toward aging up the characters and having it marketed as an adult. And also the length of the books.
Yeah, so I'm going to say this fully as somebody who doesn't actively read romance novels. I like books that have romance elements in them, but I'm not just going to go out and pick a book that is just solely romance. That's just my preference.
Mm-hmm.
I think that to say that a book has to have some kind of romance in order for it to be considered young adult I don't agree. I feel like young adult should be books that are for people in the, like, written with characters that are young adults. And not every young adult person has romance. Not every young adult narrative needs to have a romantic element, I think. So I don't like it. I think it's dumb. I wouldn't say that it's middle grade, because what about other themes? What if it's like a horror book and there's no romance? And somebody's getting their head chopped off. Is that supposed to be middle grade now because there's no kissing? Like,
I'm with you.
I get it.
I think, okay, well, Read, Love, Listen said that that's strange. There needs to be more adventure books in normal life for a young adult. And Kalia, did I say it right that time? Kalia? Kyla. I'm going to get it right one day, I swear. Kyla said that that's such a weird classification to me, and I agree, because it's just like, I feel like it's one of those weird things where people need to recognize that even though adults are the majority of the ones who buy young adult novels, and a lot of reviews online are from adults, they're at least in the communities that I have seen, especially when it comes to Black reviewers, most of them are at the youngest, like 2021. They're adults. They're not the target audience for the book. And I can understand as a young adult, or a new adult, as I would say, that you would want more romance in the book. But when you're like when you're a young adult, the YA, the actual market for that is like 13 to like 18, you know? And when you're 13, 14, 15, like a lot of people aren't even thinking about romance and romantic plot lines at that point. And to say that it has to have one in order for it to resonate with young adults, it feels very peer pressury to me, which is really weird because then there's this whole conversation that adults like to have, like talking about how much is too much, in that, you know, certain books shouldn't include certain elements because they don't want their kids learning about it. But if it doesn't have enough, then it doesn't fit the genre. That's really weird to me. Like, nah, I can't. I don't think that's right. And then there's also the conversation of young adult is getting longer. Like, and I've kind of seen this just in general with the books that I've been picking up, because I don't know if y'all seen Beast of Prey, and I know fantasy is different, but Beast of Prey is a thickums. All right? And so is Children of Blood and Bone.
Thicker than a snicker over here.
Yeah. And the books have steadily been getting longer. And somebody pointed out that that's kind of a trend in publishing right now. And the question was, should YA books be as long as they are? Because, you know, some books are upwards of 90,000 words. So, and like I said, fantasy is a little bit different because there's a lot of world building and stuff that goes on in it. But I know for me, I feel like this. I feel like it's one of those elitist type things. Because, you know, when you're a kid and you have a thick book, you feel smart. But also, there are kids who like to read, but also don't want to read a 500-page book and will 100% be intimidated by it. And I don't know, every book doesn't need to be 500 pages. It's just a thought. Like, if you can tell it in 200, do that. But that's just my personal opinion.
I think a lot of it could be a reaction to indie publishing. I don't know. I feel like we're at this point where indie publishing, it's like a feedback loop where indie publishing will set a trend and then Trad Pub will follow, but then Trad Pub sets a trend and then indie follows. And I like that it's a symbiotic thing that works together.
Ooh, symbiotic.
But I just feel like, I just feel like we don't need romance in every narrative. Not every book needs to have romance.
I 100%
and I don't think that makes it for younger audiences. Because, like, middle grade, you know, preteens have crushes too. Preteens are daydreaming about boys and girls and MBs and all that, so.
Exactly. So, and that's kind of my thing. Like, you can have crushes in a middle grade, but also you don't have to have a romance just because you're a teenager, because some people just are late bloomers or aren't interested. You know, some people just straight up are not interested until later, you know? And to say that, it's just like, why can't these kids just go on an adventure and have fun, you know? Like, I don't know. That's weird. But, I love the comments. Okay, Relove Listen said, YA doesn't need romance as a focal part. Why does every book for teens need romance? If that was the case, then most of the books I read as a teen would now be classified as middle grade. Shaking my head. So The Uglies is now a middle grade. I mean, that's basically what they're saying. I don't know if you guys have ever read The Uglies by Scott Westerfield, but it's a dystopian novel where basically there's, I think when I read it, there were 4 books. I think there were actually 5. But the first one's called Uglies, Pretties, and then after Pretties was Specials, I want to say. And basically the whole premise is that it's a dystopian world and you're born normal, and then when you hit 16, you become a pretty. And a pretty is basically you undergo a surgery and you become aesthetically beautiful and everybody is pretty, and you leave the ugly town and you cross over this like rigid border to go live in Pretty Town. And you live in Pretty Town for like your youth or whatever, and then you start to settle down, and then at a certain point you move to, like, you go back to the ugly town, you have kids, raise them or whatever, and then when you retire you move to like the senior citizen town, and then you die. Right? It's very rigid, right? But the main character, her name is Tally, Her best friend goes through the pretty surgery a couple of months ahead of her because he's a little bit older, and he straight up forgets her, does not remember his time with her at all. And she's just like, what happens in this surgery? And then, insert, your rebel friend who shows up at the right time, is like, hey, there's some rebels out here. We're not taking the pretty surgery. We're going to take down the government. And then that's basically what the next 3 books are about. And it's actually really, I remember it being really good, but also take that with a grain of salt because that was like 13, 14-year-old Chelsea who loved the books. And I have not reread them since. But they are the books that got me into dystopian. So, yeah.
Okay. Sounds pretty dystopian.
I love how you're just like, okay, Chelsea, yeah. Yeah.
No, I mean, it sounds like an interesting concept. I've heard people talk about the series and really enjoy it. I think for me, I'm not as much of a huge dystopian fan.
That's fair.
But I'll read it if it's good. It's just not my ministry.
That's fair. I can respect that. Slight plug: if you are not following Amanda on Instagram, you should be, because she also has a horror host support group that you should be checking out. I actually just got the book of the month, which is Within These Wicked Walls. That's why I went to Books a Million. I told you about the mug. I didn't tell you about the book. I went and got the book to read it. So make sure you follow that. I will drop the app for it in the chat so you guys can see how to spell it. But yeah, you should do that. Follow them. Support. That being said, I can gibber and gabber. Gabble? Gabber. Whatever. Talk my mouth off all day. Let's do these next sprints. Next 30 minutes. Sound good?
Yeah, I'm down.
All right. Happy writing, everyone. And I'm all over the place. Chaos. Whatever. Happy writing. All right, you guys, that is it for that sprint. Let us know how you did, what you did, so on and so forth. And I'm going to bring out my calculator so I can figure out how much I did. All right, so according to my calculations, which may or may not be 100% accurate, whatever, I got 637 words that time.
Nice. 368. Not as much as I wanted, but I wrote, so that's all that matters, I guess.
That is all that matters. The point is to be making progress, and like I said, this story is kind of taking on a life of its own. So I'm kind of glad that I didn't have to delete what I thought I was gonna have to delete. I just had to add a whole lot of middle stuff, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I have been working on. I don't know. Do you ever feel like, maybe this is just me because I guess technically I'm writing a high fantasy, but I'm trying to make sure that the technology and stuff that I am introducing makes sense in like a casually practical way where it's just like naturally integrated, you know? If that makes sense. Kind of like how you don't think about using your phone or how it works or why it works. You just know that it does a thing and you expect it to do that. You know?
Right. So what technology are you trying to add?
Literally everything. Because I didn't want to. Okay, so this is gonna sound, I guess, kind of arrogant, but I was just thinking, like, I don't want to really take any technology that we have in the current world because I very much want this world to feel completely different from the one that we live in. So I didn't want to be like, oh, they've got cars, like they've got transportation, but it's not cars because it's like if you have a car, you have to have something, you have to have some type of fuel source. And if you have a fuel source, a lot of people naturally go towards oil and, you know, the destruction of the planet and how terrible that is, so on and so forth. And it opens up a different can of worms, for lack of a better term. So I've been trying to come up with things that make sense. So like the side character that I was telling you about, and if you guys watch my TikTok, it's the one that got her heart broken by Noble. Um, she she's an engineer, but I wanted to. I don't know. I just want to create a understanding within the world that like yes, she's an engineer, but it's not like how we understand engineers in our actual world. Like it's the same type of vibe, but what she actually does and the things that she creates and the things that she does is different. So it's like she still creates things within the technological realm, but the things that she's creating, like one of the things that I created was like a pod system. So instead of being like trains and cars and stuff, there is a pod system. So like you just get into one and then it takes you where you need to go. And they're like spherical ones that are for personal use, and then there are oblong ones that are like buses where more people can fit inside them. And it's kind of like in my mind what I imagined the Jetsons, but a little bit more structured because it's not to the point where everybody's just going around wherever they want to go without any rules or regulations. And so there's a system for it, and I don't want to like get really deep into it on the sprint because I'm still working it out. But trying to explain that and how it works in a like in a sense of kind of like the cell phone, like it makes sense to everyone who's familiar with it, but for one of my characters who comes from this really like far like no technology, like about like 7 generations behind, like imagine us being in a world where we're very comfortable with the internet and cell phones, and then injecting someone from like 100 years ago who has no idea what a regular phone is, let alone a cell phone, let alone portable communication that where you don't even have to talk to someone, you know. So I have a character like that, and just trying to make sure that it's clear enough where it's like this is common, but also not so common that she's aware of it, and simple enough where it's just like, oh, this is how it works, but not so simple where it's like, oh, anybody can do this. Like, no, this one character is very special because she can, but this is not common. I don't know. It's a weird, delicate situation that I'm trying to work out, and I don't even know if I'm making any sense. But yeah.
No, you are. I think it's just important to just at this point write it and then see how it feels when you look at it with fresh eyes. Because I think it makes sense, but I can hear that you're explaining and explaining and explaining and explaining, and you don't want your editor brain to take over when you're just trying to get it on the page.
Yeah, so that's been, and I've been kind of working it out. That's why I have my notebook off here to the side, because as it comes to me, I'm like, okay, this is something that makes sense, and this is something that doesn't. But there's like a whole section of this world that I didn't even really think about until I wrote the last chapter. And I was telling Ben, I was just like, so, because he reads the chapters as I write them, and he was like, this is a really good chapter. And I was like, thank you. I made 100% of it up. And he was like, obviously you made it up, Chelsea. You wrote it. I was like, no, you don't understand. See, there's an outline, and there's a plan, and none of this was in the plan. So I'm glad that it worked out and it made sense. So.
No, you're good. It sounds great. Sorry.
No,
I hear gravel voice.
You're good. But I say all that to say that when you read it, I will be asking for specific feedback about that to make sure that it makes sense. So,
yeah. Yeah, I'll be doing the same with this book. It's a different magic system than my series, and so I want to make sure that it's distinct enough from that. I mean, it's not element like the series is. It's not that. There are a lot of like magics that people used to think were evil. Like, you know how we feel like necromancy is like black magic?
Yeah.
I'm going to say dark magic because we getting away from using black magic here.
Yes.
But like evil and things like that. And it's kind of this whole like, we're moving away from saying that stuff is evil, but there's still people in this world who feel like certain powers are evil, and that comes to play with like why things happen. If that makes sense.
It does. I'm looking forward to it, honestly, because just from like I said, the little part that I read, it seemed like I didn't get the feeling that it was based off of the Witchkind series, so I didn't feel like it was like a melding, if that makes sense. Like it felt entirely different, which I really liked. So I'm excited. I'm really excited. I cannot wait to read this book. I cannot tell you how much I'm looking forward to it. That being said, my brain stopped in the middle of that sentence. Read Love Listen said she got 135 words and ended up working on a different story and doing some character profiles. So, whoop. Getting character profiles done is honestly amazing. I both love and hate character profiles. They're helpful, but I also hate doing them, if that makes sense. So, but that being said, that was our second sprint. Are you down for one more? We are coming up on 2 hours, so it's totally up to you. How you feel?
I'm down for another sprint, maybe like a 20-minute sprint. Then we can wrap it up like with 10 minutes of talking afterward. So we can start the 20-minute at 12 or the top of the hour, I'll say, because we're in different time zones.
Yes, that works for me. So we'll do a 20-minute, got that pulled up, and like you said, do exactly what you said. So I am probably not even probably. I know I'm gonna be writing after this because, like I said, my word goal for today is 3,000 words. I'm probably gonna try to go over that just because, like I said, I am leaving. Well, not leaving, but things for us to go to Texas start kicking off tomorrow. We have to take our dog 2 hours to my in-laws, and they're going to keep Alphonse, and then we have to pack and get ready for this road trip. But I'm excited about it. We picked out an audiobook to listen to on the way, so we're going to be listening to Beast of Prey. So that'll be interesting.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, your dog's name is Alphonse. I love.
Yeah, he's my little Fonz. He is named after Alphonse Elric from Full Metal Alchemists. So it's an anime thing. We went to we knew we were going to get a dog, and so we had a name picked out from Inuyasha, and we were like, we need a dog who fits these characteristics. We were like, we want a black dog, obviously, because we are who we are. And when we got there, they had one dog, but we couldn't adopt him because she was like, so he's really sweet, but he's deaf and blind in one eye, and he has really bad separation anxiety, and he is also schizophrenic, so he's on medication for that. And so he can't be, we don't really want to have anyone who's going to be away from the home adopt him because he wouldn't do well with that. And at the time, I was still working as a teacher, and so I was like, yeah, no, I can't have a dog that can't be at home while I go to work. So we ended up getting another dog, and the name didn't fit with him. So we were just like sitting in the car, and we were calling out random names, and we were like, oh, this could work. And then when we said Alphonse, he just perked up like, like, I like that one. So that's how he ended up with the name Alphonse. No one asked for that story, but I gave it to you anyway.
I love it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm tired. Also, a new episode of the podcast came out today. I'm trying to be ambitious with it, Amanda, and we'll see how long this lasts. But I dropped a book review this morning. So today's Monday. Another episode comes out on Wednesday where I'm going to be talking about, what was it? Going your own way, doing your own thing. And then another one comes out on Friday, a new episode of Chelsea's Corner. So
nice.
We'll see.
Well, I dropped my indie author journey episode on Thursday, so if anybody's interested in hearing about my journey from before I started publishing to having published 2 books in the series plus an anthology, check it out. I give a lot of tips along the way and talk about some of my mistakes. It's very stream of conscious, but I'm going in a different direction with my channel, so it's kind of the first foray into that. So check it out. It's fun. There's bloopers. I sing. It's a fun time.
I will definitely check it out. I know I'm subscribed to your channel. Slight plug. If you're not subscribed to Amanda, you should definitely do that. If you're not subscribed to me, you should do that. But yeah, I will definitely check it out after I meet my word count for the day. I feel like it's crazy because I've been stressing myself out so much. I feel like 3,000 words, just like, oh, it's just 3,000 words. That's totally accomplishable. So I don't know what I've done to my brain, but apparently I've broken it. That being said, it is the top of the hour. So let's get into this final sprint. Gonna be 20 minutes. So happy writing, you guys. that is it for that final sprint. So, let us know one more time what you did, how you did, so on and so forth. And we will go from there.
Whew.
That was
375 this time.
I got 504, and I finished this one scene, and I'm kind of excited about the next one that's coming up. So that's good. One, there's something wrong with my brain, but the main characters are assaulting someone they thought was a friend who has proven that he knows things that he shouldn't know if he is not their enemy. So that scene is coming up, and so I'm really excited about that. But yeah. If you're still here, still watching, still working, let us know how you did, what you're working on. We have about 8 minutes left because on the half hour, that's going to be the end of the stream. So, yeah, how are you feeling, Amanda? Feel like you're making progress, getting there? Where you at?
Yeah, I'm probably today. I think the dream is always for the words to flow, and you get like the hundreds and hundreds of words. But for me, even if I do several sprints today and I get 300 something, that's still gonna put me over the, 1,000. I'm already over the 1,000 words today, so yeah. Every little bit helps. So I feel good. I'm just getting there. Slowly but surely. I'm like the tortoise today.
I feel that. I feel like I'm always the tortoise. I feel like I'm always the tortoise. Just making my way downtown. Not walking fast. But,
Faces aren't passing because it's COVID.
Yeah.
And you're not homebound because you're already home.
Yeah.
Oh my God, millennials. That was such a millennial moment. Like, I can't even feel it.
It was. Oh my God. Well, but yeah, I'm making progress. I don't know. I feel like my work is always slow going for me, but it's interesting because I feel like I'm stretching myself in my craft now, and so things that used to seem impossible now feel very much like in the realm of comfortable possibility. So that's really, really cool. I think that's my favorite part about writing this book so far. Like, telling the story that's been living in my head rent free for like the last 6 years is super fun. Glad to get that out and have like a space for other things, right? But just knowing that I'm actually improving, and like even when I go back to some of my previous chapters, I know some of my previous chapters are like 3,000 words, and I remember like struggling for those 3,000 words and being like, oh my God, I can't do this. This is so hard. I don't know if I'll be able to do this. Like, I can only get, like at one point, getting 1,500 words a day would have been like my max. Like, good job, Chelsea. You did the thing today. And now I'm just like casually like, oh yeah, I'm at 1,700 words. I've got like another 2,000 words before I'm done for the day, and I'm okay with that. Like, that's in my realm of comfortable possibility now. So that's kind of really cool. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, for me, after this, I'm probably going to maybe take a break, watch some, like, Buffy or something, get my brain to recharge, and then get back to writing. That'll be... by the end of the day, I will have all the words that I want, but I'm not in a, like, sit-down, hunch shoulders, voracious writing kind of mood today. It's more like coming back to it.
I fully
work,
understand.
Come back.
And I've learned that I have to do it in chunks, because once I stop, I'm done for the day. So writing for me is usually the last thing that I do. It's not today because, we were streaming, obviously. But for me, I think there's another podcast episode that I want to record because, like I said, I'm not going to be here to record it on Monday. We're going to be driving back. So because I don't want to miss an episode, of the podcast, since I literally just started, I'm going to go ahead and record it so I can go ahead and set that up so it'll still come out on time. And then I'm going to take a break. I have been doing this thing, Amanda, that's really wild, really crazy. I've been reading books. And it's kind of wild because for me, I've always been so heavy into young adult. Like, I started reading the genre when I was like 13, and I never really quite grew out of it. Like, I'm one of those adults that people talk about. Like, yeah, I 100% go to the store and I bought Beast of Prey, a young adult fantasy, for myself. It is not for the child in my life. It is for me. Thank you very much. And yes, I did get the special edition because that's what I want. It makes me happy. Right? But I realize that I'm also getting to a point where it's like, I want to read more adult fiction. So this weekend I read My Sister the Serial Killer, which was amazing.
I love that.
Yeah. Have you read it?
I love that book, yeah. I listened to the audiobook. It was so good.
Oh my gosh. So we're going to talk about it because I don't want to spoil anybody, but we got to talk about that. But I just realized that I really am getting more into adult fiction. So, like, one of the things for 2022 that I want to do is just read more adult fiction in general. So, I went and I got The Rage of Dragons and the Fires of Vengeance by Evan Winter. I'm going to read those at some point this year. I also have several books by Nydia Okorafor and N.K. Jemisin that I have on my shelf that I never picked up. So, I plan to pick those up this year. And there was another one. Oh, Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. I also plan to pick that one up. Like, I just want to read more books meant for an older audience, and I want to read more thrillers. So, one of the people that I follow on TikTok recommended a thriller. She was like, I could not put this book down. So I just got that one from the library. And also, I have Blood Scion by Deborah Fillet. I think it comes out in March. I got an advanced review copy of it, and I'm reading it, but I'm also realizing that there's a difference between, like, the target age range for a certain book, because I realize that I've been kind of in the middle range, but if I read books for the higher range, they're also a lot more interesting to me at this point. So the ones that have, like, the deeper concepts and are less about the romantic element of falling in love for the first time and so on and so forth, but more so the politics and the fantasy and the action and the adventure part of it are what are appealing to me. Probably why I like The Kindred by Alicia Dow so much, because it wasn't about them falling in love. It was about them being in love and, like, trying to figure out how to be together. And I just felt like that was a nice take on it. But yeah.
I recommend, this author is not a Black author, but still, I think she's Filipino. It's The Wolf of Origaro.
Okay.
It is high fantasy. It's really good. It's the start of a series. It's so good. Because the thing about this character is she's a badass, but she also makes mistakes. So there are moments where you're reading it and you're like, oh yeah, no girl, I wouldn't have done that. Because she's like a fighter and she's a badass, but when it comes to, like, her heart and the things that she loves, that's not her strong suit. So she make mistakes there. And she's a mother, and then she has those where it's like, how do I son what really happened with this situation, and feel for the character because she's allowed to be vulnerable, but then she also kicks somebody's ass. She's also like, I'll kill you. So I would highly recommend it.
Okay, can you spell it for me? Because I'm, like, literally writing it down. Because
I'm going to put it in the chat.
Okay. Appreciate it. Read, Love, Listen. I also got your suggestions of Son of the Storm and The Unbroken. And The Blood Trials. I want to read The Blood Trials so bad. But I'm pretty sure that's still young adult. So I am kind of hesitant, and I know somebody recommended An Ember in the Ashes. The by Saba Tahir. Yes. I heard that was good too, but I know that's also, like, young adult, but it's less about the romantic aspect of it and more about the politics and the adventure and so on and so forth. So, okay, so The Blood Trials is actually an adult fantasy. Yes, I will definitely pre-ordering that then, because, like I said, I just want more adult fantasy in my life, especially since I'm writing one. I'm just realizing that the style of writing is different. The way of this telling the stories, the characters, so much of it is different, and I just want to like indulge in that because I just feel like I'm getting tired of YA at this point. Not that I don't like it, I just need a break from it. I'm also getting more into thrillers. That's why I picked up Within Needs to Look at Walls. And also, I think the book is called Falling by T.J. Newman. She's not a black author, but it was highly recommended by a book talker that I respect. So,
there's also No Gods, No Monsters by Cadwell Turn. I think that's adult fantasy as well.
No Gods.
It's like adult urban fantasy, I think.
Okay, that's interesting because I watched a video by Lizelle Samberry. She released a YouTube video yesterday, something. It was in my feed, recommended for me, and she mentioned that book, so I might get into it. It's marketed as adult. I have The Ember of the Ashes. It's okay. Start slow. You know, honestly, I don't know. I think. Okay, define start slow because, and we are going to hop off of here because, like, we obviously all have other things to do. But I don't know how do you feel about books that start slow, where it's more heavy on understanding the world and how it's set up versus let's actually get something going? Because, like,
It depends on the genre for me.
Okay. So, let me make it more specific and selfish, like I actually want to. You've read the prologue for We Are the Origin.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that is a slow start, like, in general?
No, to me, a slow start is... So, one example is a book that I keep picking up and putting down. It's My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen King.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, like, getting to know the character. One horror thing happens at the beginning of the book, which kind of piques your interest, and then you get to know this character. And part of it is this character is, like, slowly kind of unraveling, and things are... because we're dealing with a character who's obsessed with slasher films. And she's graduating from high school, so we're getting that viewpoint. But what's happening in the world around her is like a gentrification situation. So it's kind of a slow creeping of a horror to her where her world and things are kind of being taken over. And then I think the last, like, 100 pages are going to be kind of more slasher horror, you know? But it's a slow burn in that I get what's happening and it's like a mounting dread. But your book is different because it's like a prologue, okay, and then it drops you right into the action. Action starts, like, kind of immediately. Okay. So it's different.
Okay, and that's kind of what I wanted to know because it's just like, I know how I feel about books where I'm just kind of like, it's slow and I don't really care, or vice versa, because something that I feel like happened with one of the books that I picked up recently was that the first chapter was really fast paced and I was like, okay, great, this is going to be good. And then it just slowed down immediately starting with chapter 2. And I feel like I had been bamboozled because I was like, okay, this is not as fast paced as I wanted. But I feel like My Sister the Serial Killer was the exact pace that I wanted. Like, please keep going. Please keep giving me information. Please keep this to the pertinent details. Because, like, I realized that with some books, I 100% care about the characters and their little day-to-day lives and so on and so forth. But I've also realized that a lot of the times I'm just kind of like, get to the point. Why do I need to know this? What is happening? Is something coming? Like, especially with romantic aspects, I realize that I am not a slow burn romance type person because I'm like, if you do not grow a set of balls and speak your mind, I am putting this book down and never picking it up again. But I realize that that's just me. I'm a very direct person. Say what you mean what you say, and if people got an issue with it, move on. That's not the person for you. But I realize that a lot of characters, a lot of books are not like that. And so it makes me kind of picky with what I pick up because I know I can be kind of impatient, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, I mean, your book is good. I wouldn't worry about it. But if pacing is something that is a concern for you, I'll look out for it when I read your book. For me, the intro part that you read is a lot of an info dump at the way it is now, where it's like telling about her as a kid and her kind of starting to figure out that she's a necromancer and seeing ghosts, and then what happens from there. I'm going to be rearranging that so it's that info is weaved more organically into the story, so it starts quicker. But I will obviously want a note on pacing, because I don't want this to be like, okay, girl,
I got you.
Who was murdered? Get to it now.
I got you. And I guess that's the thing that we all worry about at some point, is that it's one of those things where people say not everyone's going to like your book, but then you also in the back of your mind, you're like, I want everyone to love my book, you know? So that being said, I'm not going to ramble here. I appreciate you guys for being here. Read, Love, Listen did say, I don't mind world building, but a slow start to me is when the story pacing is slow, but then it doesn't pick up. Then boom, it wants to pick up. If things could just happen, or when there's pointless side characters introduced and nothing is done with them, is slow to me. I agree. I don't like it when it's like, I feel like the last 100 pages of a 400-page book is when the book gets interesting, because that means 3/4 of the book is not, right? I also don't care for introducing a bunch of characters in the beginning. If they are not relevant, if they are not going to come back around, then I'm just kind of like, why are you introducing them to me? Especially when they're like, that one character who lives down the street who has a limp and only comes out of the house on Wednesdays to check his mail. Okay, why do I need to know that he lives down the street and has a limp and only comes outside on Wednesdays to check his mail? Is that going to be useful? Is he going to see something one Wednesday and everybody knows that it had to happen on a Wednesday because he doesn't come outside any other time? Or are you just telling me that because she lives in a weird-ass neighborhood? Because you could have just said she lives in a weird-ass neighborhood with weird people and moved on, you know?
Right.
I think there's a difference. You have to find a balance between showing and telling, but that's also a rant that I'm not going to get into today. So, if you're still watching, thank you so much for being here. If you're on YouTube, please hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications. I will be back here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the first episode of the Melanin Chat of 2022. It's going to be really fun. It's going to be a good time. If you want to join the after chat, there's a link for the Patreon down below where we have the Melanin Chat, but also unfiltered and for grown folks. So if that's something that you're into, check it out. Support Black authors and the Melanin Library at the same time. That being said, also subscribe to Amanda because she is amazing. Also turn on notifications so you don't miss her video drops and the lit bitches. So you don't be like me and miss the live because you messed around and was sleeping. Okay. Anyway, that being said, thank you guys so much for being here. Y'all are the best. And until next time, hope your days are lovely and your